Monday, May 10th, City Council meeting for Washburn, Wisconsin. Roll call, please. Oh, there's Tony. Roll call, please.
Turn the camera on. Dave Anderson? Here. Carl Broberg? Here. Jen Mazias?
Here.
Mayor McGrath?
Here.
Tom Nimas?
Here.
Karen Novacek?
Here.
Laura Tulowitzki?
Here.
Excellent. Next item, Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I better put my glasses on. Next item is approval of minutes from 2 city council meetings, April 12th and April 20th.
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of the minutes of April 12 and April 20, 2021 of the Common Council. There is a correction in the minutes of April 12 on the second page under the discussion and action on streetlight options. Mr. Grover did not make both the motion and the second. I made the motion and Mr. Grover seconded the motion. The third item down. Novacek moved and Grover seconded.
Thank you for that.
So I would move the minutes be approved as corrected.
I'll second that.
Okay. And one other minor correction, BART is all capitals as an acronym, I believe.
Okay?
So is that all right with both of those corrections?
It certainly is.
So there's a motion to approve with those 2 corrections and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item is approval of monthly expenditures via roll call vote.
And I would move approval of the monthly expenditures as reviewed.
Second. Motion by Karen, second by Mary McGrath. Roll call vote. Yes.
Laura Tulowitzki?
Yes.
Karen Novacek?
Yes.
Tom Nimas?
Yes.
Mayor McGrath?
Yes.
Jen Mazias?
Yes.
Carl Broberg?
Yes.
Dave Anderson? Yes.
Excellent. Nice projection, Counselor Anderson. Motion carries. Next item is public comment. Is anyone here that would like to give a public comment to the council? Please step forward. And if you could state your name and write your address along with your name on the little check-in sheet there.
Do you want me to do that first or after?
It is totally up to you.
Okay, I'll do it after. Hi everybody, thanks for having me. My name is Bridget Kelly. I'm a 2003 graduate of Washburn High School, and my daughter, Olivia, is a 2nd grader at Washburn Elementary.
Go Guards.
Okay. I have an animal science degree and have worked many years in research. I moved back to this area in 2016 to be closer to my family and raise my daughter on the beautiful Shawamigan Bay and the community I grew up in. Some of you may know me from slinging drinks at Patsy's Bar, or as one of the 2001 Volleyball State Championships, or from delivering your packages and mail at the local post office. Whether you know me or not, sorry, it's hard to talk about this. I'm here to tell you I have roots here. I used to help my grandma washing dishes when I was a kid at the Petty Cash Bar in the town of Russell. My mother retired from the Bayfield School District, and my father retired from the Apostle Islands National Park Service. My uncle Merle was brought back home in 2013 from Vietnam after being MIA for 46 years and laid to rest on York Island next to my grandparents, whom owned the island until it was made into a national park in 1970. I do not have a trust fund or disposable income to purchase homes for Airbnbs to help support the tourism this area really thrives on. But I do have a few things to offer. A second-grade castle guard, the ambition to work 2 jobs in this area that's already struggling to get employees. I have year-round residents supporting the local businesses that sometimes suffer in the long winter months. I definitely do not know where to begin, but I'm here today because in 21 days, I will be homeless. The house I rent has been sold. As many other rentals in this town that house the school district, house the children that go to our school district and local business employees. I'm struggling to find a home to rent in the area that I work in, my daughter learns in, and my family calls home. I know housing has been a topic of conversation for quite some time, but right now we need this dialect more than ever. There is a 2-year wait list for Bayfield County housing. There is no wait list for Airbnb applications. I am urging you all to open up the discussion about not just affordable housing, but housing in general. Please consider the folks that work and raise children in this community as a priority over Airbnb applications. We are year-round residents that are not just temporary. I know multiple families that depend on rentals because they're in the same situation as myself and not able to purchase a home. Therefore, we are being left behind, leaving us with no other option but to leave the area, quit jobs, pull kids out of the district. I myself am looking at leaving 1 federal job and 1 county job just to have a roof over my daughter's head. Therefore, I'm taking steps backwards when it's already hard enough being a single mom. Thank you for your time and your willingness to hear my concerns.
Thank you very, very much for bringing your story forward. I really, really appreciate it, as does everyone here. And it is heart-wrenching to see this happening in our community. And I know that we are really, we have a big challenge in front of us. And I wish that we could prioritize certain types of housing over others. I really wish that we could. And we will definitely take this to heart and share your story as a solid example of a real life situation that is happening right now in our community to help tell that story. And again, really, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys hearing me. I know most of these faces. I have worked in a business that has helped almost every single one of you, and you know, it's just unfortunate that it's come to this. It takes a lot for me to speak up for myself, let alone others. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you again. And if anyone knows of a rental, please let's share that information with Bridget. And I'm not sure if you're looking for a specific type of rental or if you're willing to do an apartment or a house.
Yeah, it would be a house. I have lots of animals. I work part-time for animal control.
Okay.
So I fall in love with those little buggers sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And if it's okay if her and I step out so we can get home. And
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks again. Anyone else for public comment? Anyone online for public comment?
Nobody's indicating.
Okay. Then we will move on, and Councilor Anderson or Councilor Tulowitzki, if you could grab the microphone. Maybe you can share it, pass it back and forth.
All yell.
No, I'm just getting it for you.
Okay, next item. Mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. There are a number of proclamations in your packet this week. One for National Skilled Nursing Care Week, one for National Police Week, one for Emergency Medical Services Week, one for Week of the Young Child, which is going to be renamed this year, Week of Castle Guard Connections. And I apologize for not including that one in your packet, but they are making some changes this year. And it actually is this week, May 10th through the 14th. That one will be updated to reflect that. And also Historic Preservation Month, which we had an official reading of the proclamation for on May 1st. And Arbor Day as well. Normally Arbor Day is in April, but up here we celebrate it in May because that's when the ground is thawed enough for us to plant a tree, which we will do later this month, May 26th. So those are the proclamations, and I don't believe I have any appointments, but one announcement at least, and that is, I think we're at the last 2 food distributions coming up, and one will be May 12th, and then I believe the last one is 2 weeks after that, and I think that will be the final food distribution through this program. Please spread the word. Our numbers are down. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people don't need the food as much as they did earlier. Maybe they're tired of the food. I don't know. But please spread the word and let people know it will be again in Iron River in the morning and then here in the afternoon at 1 o'clock at the County Highway Garage. And thanks to Jerry and Public Works for getting those signs put up and taken down and your help with that. That really is my only announcement. And then the next item is discussion and action on resolution number 21-003, recognizing the Washburn High School 2021 girls volleyball team for winning the state championship. I wish Bridget would have stayed for that one. So this is a resolution that was drafted in recognition of this monumental event. I see that there's an unofficial sign someone placed at the entrance to the city that will stay up there for a while. And this is tab 2, so I just want to flip to it. So this resolution, I will read. Whereas the Washburn Castle Guards volleyball program has had decades of success and is one of the premier high school volleyball programs in northern Wisconsin, and whereas the Washburn Castle Guards volleyball program has produced numerous athletes who competed and played college volleyball, and whereas the Washburn Castle Guards volleyball program has won more WIAA conference and regional championships than any other school in northern Wisconsin, and whereas the 2021 Washburn Castle Guards State Volleyball Championship is the second state title in Washburn volleyball school history, and whereas the 2021 Washburn girls volleyball team is one of the few teams in Wisconsin sports history to have an undefeated season, now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Washburn recognizes, commends, and congratulates the Washburn High School 2021 girls volleyball team for winning the state championship, and be it further resolved that the Washburn City Council recognizes and thanks the parents, family, fans, and coaches who supported the team along the way. And I would look for a motion to approve that resolution.
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-003.
Second.
Motion by Carl, second by Jennifer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Next item is discussion and action on second driveway access at 205 West Harborview Drive. James Thorson and Edith Deutsch petitioners. That is tab 3. I am still learning the code of ordinances, so I was a little confused as to why we were seeing this, because some things have to go to plan commission before they come to council, but apparently per the ordinance, this one just comes to council. And they don't, we don't have this type of request happen that often, and this month we happen to have 2. So, I don't know if you want to say anything else as an introduction, Scott, or how we go through this process. Is it similar to just going through the checklist?
Well, I did not review this, so I refer any questions on this to the Public Works Director. So this is not a zoning matter, this is a driveway ordinance, so it's in the general code. So that's why it's different. And so Jerry has basically outlined the various provisions here, but I would refer any detailed questions to him.
Thank you. It's all becoming more clear. Okay. Jerry, how would you like to come up and get the microphone from Dave there?
Hi. Okay, Madam Mayor, council members. The information was passed on to me that this resident was seeking to install a second driveway onto his property. In his permit, you will see that there's a letter typed up, and what I did was I referenced it back when we inspected the property. With this one here, all the criteria was met for the ordinance to approve. The only thing was the item number 2, the existing driveway, per the ordinance only allows up to 18 feet in width for a driveway at the residential property line. He is at 21 feet. So I included in here the information that along with the permit that this would be approved, that would remain, and that the second driveway would match the first driveway of 21 feet. There is no, as far as the guidelines in the ordinance, it meets all the criteria as far as setbacks, widths, and areas.
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
Jerry, is that not the area where they were having some trouble with drainage, and is that why the culvert was put in?
No.
Okay.
The culvert was installed prior to me arriving here.
Okay.
So
Has been installed.
yes,
Okay.
and there are pictures included in there. The area is well drained.
Okay, I maybe it was prior to that time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
If there was some issues, there are no issues
Okay,
now.
thank you.
So it's already in.
Yes,
The culvert is.
yeah.
Well, the driveway kind of is too.
So that was kind of my question.
Yeah.
Tony, go ahead.
I approved that last year as interim public works director. That was a temporary driveway at the time because an addition was added onto the house that was there. At that time, the purpose was that when the work was done, that roadway and culvert would be removed.
That was the agreement when that went in.
That was the understanding, yes. And Jim must be taking the work, I'm assuming is done, I do not know that.
Well, the
And then
earthwork.
would like to make it the secondary driveway.
Yes, they installed that so the construction activity would not destroy his primary driveway that's asphalted. And by my understanding, after having it all installed, and it looks so good, and he meets the criteria as far as the permitting goes.
Except for the fact that you're normally only supposed to have one driveway.
Well, no, our ordinance does allow 2 driveways. You just have a certain criteria for installation of those 2 driveways.
So I was under the understanding at one time, and I don't know this for sure, circle drives were not allowed. Is that, do we know that? I know there's a couple people that have been denied a circle driveway.
So under your ordinances, it is allowed with the permission granted by the county council. That's why we're here. There could be some certain aspects to the installation of these driveways. First, they don't have the width, the setback for lot lines, traffic, and that is deemed, determining on each permit, it could be different.
So,
I thought I read somewhere in this ordinance that you were supposed to only have one.
well, it says the number of driveways to serve an individual property
Yes.
fronting on a street shall be one,
Yes.
except where deemed necessary and feasible by the common council or committee thereof for reasonable and adequate service to the property, considering the safety, convenience, and utility of the street.
That's
So-
exactly what I remember.
To me, I felt the same way, that we always lean towards having one unless there was a special circumstance
Deeming
for
it necessary.
Yes.
necessary to like gain access to a garage that you couldn't get to from the other way, if there was a drainage there where you wouldn't want to cross, like all different, kind of circumstances. So I guess in this instance, this paved driveway goes to this second building.
No, it's all one building.
It's all one building, sorry. So there is access. So I guess I'm looking for advice, consultation on denial of these because I don't see a reason for, if you look at that language, I mean, we have reasonable and adequate service to the property with the one driveway that's currently paved. To have a second one that's directly next to it, that doesn't add anything unless you have big trucks and you need to go in and out. I mean, I don't know the circumstance. I'm just looking for consistency here.
Is the petitioner here tonight?
No.
Well, so I want you to understand, just from my fresh set of eyes, per your ordinance, anybody could request one, and then there's a certain set of guidelines that are set within the ordinance stating that if it is allowed, that there are certain requirements you have to meet those setbacks.
Where deemed necessary.
I'm looking for it now.
So that's 632, it's on the second page of the ordinance.
Yeah, so if you take a look,
632, number 2. The number of driveways to serve an individual property fronting on a street shall be one, except where deemed necessary and feasible.
yes, and feasible is a pretty relaxed word.
Necessary and feasible.
It's necessary and feasible. And, I mean, the homeowners are, I believe, are allowed to request that. And part of those guidelines are the setbacks, as described in there, as far as, is there enough distance between the two driveways? Is it a conflict to the area?
Is it
Egress,
necessary, though?
Egress and egress coming in and out. So,
We have a question from Karen.
Well, I had just a comment. There are 4 residents that use that driveway. There are 2 buildings that use that driveway and 2 residents in each, 2 buildings, 2 residents in each building. It's where the condos are.
No,
No.
he
It's
moved.
not. He moved.
He moved.
Yep.
He's across the street.
I know.
So strike that comment.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, I'm just trying to understand the
okay, yeah.
ordinance and consistency of what we've done across time. Like Dave said, you know, I always thought the impression was that we were supposed to have one driveway. We've denied some circular driveways. I've been on council for a while, and I mean, have we approved very many of these?
I got one.
You got one? Okay, I mean, I'm just asking for,
If
You had yours approved, you're
Look at the
saying.
garage that was built, and we have apparently approved the garage. You look at the far western double door, to get in and out of that, if you look at the map, or the diagram, this diagram, it shows access to that western part of the garage. So if they don't have the second driveway getting into that building, they'll have to have an extension on there in a turning radius to get in and out of it. So from a practical perspective, we've allowed him to build the garage, but now we make it difficult to get in and out without the garage.
And I would make that point too, that the layout of the proposed driveway for the addition is going to make it much more accessible for the new addition for the garage that was put on. With the property line being so close to the right of way, to extend that out to wrap around is almost an ditch line anyway. So
You're saying like if you were to make the driveway, like a lot of people have, where you come in and then there's like a turnaround area, so you just turn and then you go into the garage?
And it's pretty tight to the new addition is pretty tight to the right of way area. There's not a lot of distance there to build into.
If it's on it?
Well, you can't, this isn't to scale, so
Sure,
this
okay.
is his drawing, so, that building is actually sitting off, it's not on, I haven't checked it, it's not sitting on the right of way.
So, Jerry,
City property.
Would our options be for the council to approve a second driveway is one option, approve a new driveway and have them remove the old driveway? Is that, you're saying that was kind of the original understanding?
No, kind of lost me there, so
Oh.
I'll have to repeat that.
I'm sorry, I thought you had said at one point that the understanding when they were using this new driveway is that, this one would go away.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
My understanding was
This was a temporary.
Yes, they installed it as
Okay.
a temporary drive for construction purposes.
Understood.
So, because his existing driveway wouldn't be able to maintain that kind of traffic.
Got it,
with
okay.
Concrete trucks and everything, sand being hauled in.
Okay,
And I believe, by my understanding, now that it was in, everything looked good, he's requesting
okay.
to have a circular or a second driveway installed. Now, according to how I read it and reviewed it, to me, I see it is not impairing any of the conditions in which are set forth in this ordinance. So that's why, as far as I was concerned, it had met everything. And there are really, I couldn't find anything that would, short of, do you, don't you? That's a decision, for the common council to make.
So other than.
He has a very large lot, he's way off his property line, so it's not like he'll ever interfere. Good drainage, he's met the width criteria.
So I think maybe before any further discussion, we should probably have a motion on this. One way or the other.
I move to approve the driveway request.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Carl and a second by Mary McGrath. Is there some more discussion? I think there is some more discussion we need to have here. One being how this type of request has been looked at in the past. The other, are there any requirements for the amount of impervious surface on the property or anything like that?
I'll set guidelines as far as I could, unless it would be in.
In zoning?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a maximum amount of impervious surface. The one thing I'll just say is that, I'm not opposed to this. I just think we need to be consistent with these decisions, because some people that I know are upset that they don't have a circle drive when their neighbor across the street does have a circle drive. And now we're approving another circle drive. So either we're going to approve these or we're not.
And is that changing because the council makeup changes and those decisions
Yeah.
change?
I mean, that's
because
kind of why I was asking,
Yeah.
because, I mean, my impression again was we go for one just simply because that's like entry points into a road, right? So you want to limit those for pedestrian traffic, for parking, for, well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we don't want to have multiple driveways, everybody to have circular driveways and multiple entry points. But where it makes sense, and that's something I guess we should have thought about, like when you approve the plan, right? Like, I mean, I still feel like a person could get into this property and cut this off and have plenty of room. You should see what I have to do to get into my garage, but hey, whatever. I agree with Dave, like, maybe we just need more clarification, and I'm not really understanding why this wouldn't go to a planning commission, so it's consistent and there's a little bit better direction with it than
Because it's
versus
a
this.
driveway ordinance.
Yeah, you know, I don't know.
That's fine.
But I mean, I'm not opposed to it either. We obviously don't want these approved again and again and again, because we don't want multiple driveways at every house being built in Washburn. That I do know.
I would love to have a circle drive. And so,
You know, I guess I would look at it as that each one is an individual case, and we've agreed to, through the process, to let him build this second garage. Now it's an issue of access to it, and he's got enough property, you know, so it's not like we're loading up that whole section of the street. He's actually almost on a corner. So I don't see a reason why we wouldn't approve this one. I will
who's
take a look
being
at.
judged?
Dave, hold on a second.
I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Carl, go ahead.
Take a look at each one individually and say, does this make sense for this property?
One thing that, sorry, now I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's all right, I'm done.
One thing that I am wondering is the first driveway already is too wide. And now, if the second one is approved, we're approving one that's too wide. So that's one question mark that's hanging out there for me. Dave?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up as well. I mean, we're gonna approve a non-conforming driveway.
Mhm.
And I think if we approve this, it should be 18, not 21, to match the other one. I don't know. And who's responsible for the culverts? If they freeze up in the spring and they can't flow?
We do the thawing,
Right,
but the homeowner paid for the installation of the culvert.
right.
The thing I can mention is that the ordinance has been in place a while. That house is not that old. When that driveway was originally installed, the existing one, at that point it wasn't checked per plan or width, so it was set in, and so that's why it was one of the things. So you know, when I'm looking at these, I physically went out there, looked at it, shot some grades. When I measured the driveway, I was like, oh, for 21, we're supposed to be 18. I wanted to include that into this, so this doesn't come back to bite anybody in the butt. So that's why that's included in here when you approve this. We can do the second driveway at 18 feet. That's what the ordinance, you know, dictates. But to allow the existing driveway to remain, so it doesn't become an issue down the road again.
I would think that would be grandfathered in, would it not?
Well, more than likely, the driveway was at 18 at one point, and it has been resurfaced in the 40 years that it's been there. And probably got eats over the edge a little bit, over the course of time, so.
3 inches, it's not very much.
No, feet. Feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Jen.
Still not very
Well,
much.
and I just want to go back to the point of the ordinance and the number 2. I mean, I think that when this was approved, it was approved because you do have access to service this property off that one driveway. I respectfully disagree the fact that you can't access this. You know what I mean? I feel like this ordinance is in place for things that can be accessed off of one driveway. And this is a circular situation that I do think is a little bit different. And I feel like if you were to cut this off, looking at the drawings, and I did drive by there today, you could access this building through that driveway.
With a concrete pad turned
Now,
on.
whether it's convenient or perfect, I mean, we could argue to the cows come home, we probably would all have a different opinion on that. But I think that they wouldn't have put that in, and it wouldn't have been a temporary situation with Tony that they were gonna take that out. This is a convenience second driveway, period, in my head. Now, whether we wanna approve it or not, that's a different situation, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's probably more convenient for the homeowner, and definitely if you're gonna have, I don't know what they're doing in these large garages, or if it's a home, or if it's are they garages? They were garages.
So the new one is a garage, and the old one was the garage that they've converted into more living space.
The back one?
Yeah.
The back one's a living space.
No.
The one on the end is a garage. The new one to the left on the end is the garage.
There's two
Yes.
car doors.
2-car doors.
Those are new. If you're looking at the picture, to the right of that, the garage is turned into living space. They're working
old
on-
garage.
The old garage.
Where the car is.
They're actually working on that now.
Okay. For
So-
me, it still stands the principle of, I mean, there's no question that it'd be easier and better. I think you can still access it. So again, it gets to the point of how consistent you want to be with circular driveways and how you access.
Question for Tony. When the temporary driveway was permitted or approved, not permitted, but approved, what was the plan for when the driveway was going to be taken out or turned back in?
I don't remember that.
Okay. I mean, I'm just wondering how you turn a gravel driveway back into yard or
Remove the gravel and
you
then
just, you have to dig it out
you
and
just
then.
dig it out and put your dirt back and plant your grass. I mean, it
Okay.
happens all the time, but, I mean, yeah.
So we have an ordinance that clearly states one driveway unless necessary. We have an applicant who got approval for a temporary driveway and then changed their mind and is looking for an exception to that ordinance, basically. But it's not really worded as an exception, is it? Is the motion to make an exception, or is it just to approve a second driveway?
Just approve it.
Can we have a motion that goes against an ordinance?
Does the ordinance say never a second driveway?
It says shall be one
Shall be
unless
one.
a second is deemed necessary.
I would, depending on what our attorney says, I would say that's subjective to the council.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why we're here.
And it does have language of like driveways. If you read the general design, it says private driveways. Driveways shall provide direct ingress, and it also says the driveway shall be located and constructed. Driveway approaches shall be at least 10 feet apart. So there is some,
Right.
I mean, I would
Sure.
hope that our driveway approaches would be more than 10 feet apart. That's kind of a little weird. I mean,
They haven't always.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess there's some circumstances, if you have some drainage or if you have some different things in between buildings, that to me makes more sense.
But to your point, Jen, the consistency, and the prime example was Bridget tonight, there's going to be more Airbnbs that needs more off-street parking, which means there's going to be more requests for either secondary or more than 18 feet wide. So consistency is now or never in a sense, because they're going to come. Because with an Airbnb or most of your businesses, you're not offering on-street parking. You're supposed to be offering off-street parking.
Right, because you're like, your second driveway is for a second building, right? It's two different
Purposes.
purposes and
Yeah.
access. But, okay. I agree with you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions, discussion on this, or do we have enough to take a vote?
Or are we setting a standard tonight then? That, because this is a circle drive, however you cut the mustard, this is a circle drive.
Is it a circle?
It makes it a circle drive.
It makes it able for you to turn or enter one
In and out.
entrance and come back out another onto the same.
The drawing, as I looked at the drawing, I didn't think, I thought it was just two driveways in.
I would say despite Carl's point of it being individual case by case, that this would set a precedent of approving something that is not meeting the ordinance. Laura?
This has not gone to the planning commission, correct?
No, because it doesn't need to, because it's an ordinance instead of a part of the zoning code.
Okay. And I'm just running through all the reasons why this might exist, which is, I would think about anything that doesn't fit the normal, why we make exceptions. And so, does anyone have any idea, is there a list of why we would want to keep single driveways? Because without having it set in stone, how it's decided, very subjective. The only extra things I could think of is trying to reduce the number of driveways coming and going from a house because we want to allow for pedestrians. There's no sidewalk there.
If I could just point out, it's not subjective because the only part that is subjective is if it's necessary. It very clearly states there should be one driveway.
Right, but why?
Unless it is necessary to have a second. And there's lots of reasons why, for safety reasons.
If it's going to change though,
Well, it says adequate service to the property, considering the safety, convenience, and utility of the street.
If it's deemed necessary. That's after it, if it's deemed necessary. Tom?
If we set a precedence tonight, can we change this ordinance so that it goes with this precedent?
That would be a whole other process that we could look at, but then we're opening the door wide open to anyone could have a second driveway, potentially. Jerry?
Okay, so one more thing I'd like to bring to light to this. We keep talking about a circle driveway. Nowhere in here could I find an ordinance where it says we're talking about a driveway entrance. Not a circular, not a... So when I looked at this permit, what I'm looking at two driveways. It doesn't define saying whether they're going to connect, it's whether, is it feasible, is it serviceable? Does it meet these certain guidelines? That nowhere does it say, because it's circular. If it's not circular, okay, well now we'll allow it. The ordinance in here doesn't allow me to make that determination when presenting it to you to review it as whether it's a circle driveway or not. Is it the resident is asking to install a second driveway, per his feelings that he needs this driveway to access his property for whatever reason. Those reasons weren't defined in here as far as, everybody has an individual preference in how they perceive how that driveway can be used. I want to make sure that we understand that in the ordinance, nowhere does it say anything about circular. It's just a driveway, a second driveway. And in there, it does state, when we talk about, when they say 10 feet, that's 10 feet from an adjoining driveway. There's 15 feet of separation between, when you do allow a driveway, there has to be 15 feet between the two driveways is the distance. So it's kind of confusing there when you're reading it about distances and how far apart they are. In the special provision, it talks about about that.
But you can argue that this home is two homes. It's two living, I mean, there's two family units there.
No.
Again,
No, there aren't.
No, that's a single
No,
unit.
it's not, I was wrong.
oh, really? I
Yeah.
thought Edie had her own.
No,
No.
that's single.
Okay.
The single, I mean, they may be expanding it and making it two living quarters, but it's just one building.
Oh, no, I get
Yeah.
that it's one
Oh,
building.
what you're saying.
But if it's like the townhouses,
Yeah.
they share a wall.
Yeah.
Isn't that the same down there? They're sharing a wall?
No, this is a single unit, but the original driveway goes
Mhm.
to what's now a living space.
Right.
So that, and then we allowed this, what I thought was a really big garage, it's bigger than the house,
Yeah.
to be built. And it's got two double doors and access to the one they'd have to put some asphalt in there. You may not touch the street, but you're gonna end up putting asphalt in so that they could turn and get in and out of that western garage door.
I'm having trouble understanding why it was built this way when it seems pretty clear it would need to be, and there is room in the back. So it seems like approving it does also set that precedent that, well, if you build it and it's clearly necessary then, so and that's what it brought the planning commission to, right? To get
Yeah.
approved, or is this just whoever looked through the permit?
The garage would have.
When you're looking at the zoning code and as far as the approval of the garage itself met the requirements. At the time, they were aware they would have to make adjustments to the driveway. So whether that be remove the old driveway and add a new driveway or what have you, but that is a separate process.
Right, there was options there. They could have put one in the middle, they could have, whatever, yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Yeesh.
I would love to say, I know Jim and Edie, I've known them all my life, and I would love to say, let's just let them have it, and I think we should. But I just want to make it clear that I think that what we're doing here is making it so that everyone can. I mean, I don't see any necessity in creating this, right? I mean, I would love to have this so I can back my boat into my property much easier than it is right now. So, and so, I mean, what are the future, what's going to happen in the circle driveway with a neighborhood that has curb and gutter? Now we have two cuts in the curb. Is that going to cost the city more money? What's this going to, this is not curb and gutter.
I think that's a valid point that we need to think about. Are there any other considerations like that? If this is setting a precedent, allowing an unnecessary but desired second driveway? Karen?
In applying this ordinance, I cannot remember a second driveway request coming to the council. Scott, have we had second driveway requests?
Yes, we have.
We have.
We have.
And
Since I've been on the council,
Okay.
I know we've approved two.
those that were approved were deemed necessary.
Yeah.
Did it create a circle drive?
No, it did not.
No, they were access to other areas separate.
Yeah.
You know, it was, again,
Right.
different.
Is
Because it's like driveway over here, building, larger lot. I mean, if you look at the lot, there was, if this was built over here in the corner, you'd have it's
Oh,
just,
that's right, we did that one.
you know what I mean? So yeah, we've
Yeah,
done
yeah,
that
that's
before,
right,
but they've
yeah.
been different.
Is,
Yeah.
going back with the circular driveway concept, is there something in the zoning code that addresses circular driveways?
I'm not sure. I don't have it.
No, okay, so that is just a concept. Sort of irrelevant, but.
And this ordinance doesn't appear to say anything specifically
Right.
about circular drive.
Right.
Okay.
So we're just looking at the ordinance and the language in front of us.
Circle driveways have been denied in the past.
Because it was circular, because it was
Because it
not
was-
necessary.
One entrance in and out of the same driveway, 2 curb cuts, they have been denied, so
And why were those denied?
I don't know.
You don't know?
That was the
Okay,
question.
yeah.
This is before my time, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Jerry, one question, you said the ordinance is, say 18 feet width, and this is 20?
21.
21?
The existing one is 21 feet wide.
Okay, and the proposed is 21?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe
20.
20.
If this failed, could the mayor direct it to the planning commission to look at making adjustments and?
I think, isn't there an appeal process?
Yes, there is.
Well, I don't think this is a zoning issue.
No, it's not. It's
So
an
how
ordinance.
does it change? Like you mentioned, you know a lot of people that would
The
like
council
it.
would have to probably change the
Ordinance.
ordinance to just outright allow second driveways, which is gonna, well, it's gonna cause, it's gonna cause a lot of people to wanna have one. And if we're up for that, then, if we're all in agreement that we wanna do that, we just have to carefully think about what that's gonna do. It's gonna, it's not gonna double, but it's gonna increase the amount of culverts that the city is gonna have to potentially steam and get unclogged. If there's curb cuts in a curb and gutter neighborhood, and some of that curb and gutter, I'm sure, is up to the homeowner to deal with, unless it gets damaged. Snow plows, I don't know. I just think it's something to think about.
Can anyone enlighten us on what can of worms this opens?
Well, we're only,
Go ahead.
we're only anticipating what we don't. We cannot anticipate future ones. I mean, Dave is saying that there would be a raft of requests, but, we don't know that at this point in time.
No.
But there could be.
I'm wondering about potential, what
Yeah.
kind of costs or issues for the city or
How-
dangers, because safety's been mentioned, but I don't know the list of what safety issues there are, so.
It would be really helpful if the petitioners were here so that we could maybe get some more detail as to why they feel that it is necessary, or at least convince us as to why it might be necessary.
We could table it for next meeting.
Well, for right now, we have a motion and a second to approve. And unless there's further discussion, I feel like we should vote on that motion.
I'd like to amend my motion to reduce the width to 18 feet.
Right.
So it's at least.
I agree, and I'm fine with that.
Mary, do you agree with that amendment?
Oh, yeah, I was saying yes to Carl.
Okay, is that the process for an amended motion? So now we have an amended motion to approve a second driveway of 18 feet and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No.
No, whatever I'm supposed to say.
Sure. So the motion carries to approve with two oppositions, if we need to record that. That was not a tie then, correct? That was
Well, it was 2 and whatever.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. Moving on. To our next petitioner, who would like a second driveway.
Now we're doing it.
I guess there is a raft of them.
And this one does come with a letter, and I did personally speak with him, so I'll let you read his letter, and if you have any questions, we'll go from there.
Sure, hopefully everyone has read this already. So this is the one where the existing drive does comply with the ordinance. So the second driveway, or the original driveway, would be turned into a seasonal driveway, if I understood that correctly. Does anyone care to make a motion on this request?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion was that by Dave to approve, second by Tom. Is there any discussion on this request?
So was there a construction permit? You said my new main entrance on the west side of my home? So was there a change?
Was that another situation where it went to zone or planning for a construction permit, or?
Yeah, the front of the house has been, it looks like it's been added on to, it's not cited yet. When I inspected the property, the slope coming down doesn't permit to go up and around. It's pretty steep, so it makes sense to have another driveway to get to that other side of the house.
There was a building permit for that construction though,
I'm assuming that I've not reviewed the permit for this property.
Okay.
Yes, there was.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
As long as you're on, do you have any other comments or points you'd like to make for the council?
Well, first of all, thank you for listening to my request. I guess I'm just here to, if you have any questions. Yeah, as I stated, I'm moving the main entrance to my house on the west side, so, you know, I'd like to be able to park on that side. I currently enter my house in the back.
From the new entrance?
I'm sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble hearing. I'm sorry.
Sure, from the new entrance?
No, the old entrance.
Or the old entrance you're entering?
Yeah, currently I enter the house from the back, from the north side. And because of my remodeling and the new entry, I mean, it just kind of makes sense to have access on that side.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hagen?
Question on the motion, there's conditions laid out in Jerry's letter of paragraph 4 and 5. Is the motion subject to those conditions?
I assume so, but thank you for asking.
Yes, so I did have a conversation with Mr. Paul on the conditions of installation, because the elevation of the road itself and trying to get a good drainage, or reverse drainage off the roadway back up the driveway, I believe it's going to be too steep. So, and he's on the high crest part of it, so we won't need a culvert. So part of my condition was when I talked to him that he would be okay with stoning that first 40 feet to ensure that we're not getting a lot of erosion down into the ditchway, which he agreed to. So at the time, I believe we're still on the same page, right?
I don't know if he can hear you, Jerry. Maybe talk a little bit more directly into the...
I'm sorry, I am having trouble understanding.
Okay,
talk really loud into the microphone.
Okay, Paul, you remember when we had that conversation on the phone about the conditions of the permit with the gravel entry and impervious surface, the first 40 feet off the roadway to help with that erosion control stuff with the watershed?
I'm very sorry, I'm just not understanding everything.
Sure, let me try, can you hear me?
A little bit better, yes. Some folks I can hear really well and others not.
Okay,
My computer.
if everyone can make the effort to pull their microphone closer and speak loudly into it, and Jerry, I'll just try to repeat what you said. So Jerry's asking if you remember the conversation where you talked about the first 40 feet being gravel to help with erosion.
Yes, I remember that, and, I'll do whatever needs to be done, so.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Anyone have any other questions or comments? Jen?
Can you read back the motion?
The motion is to approve this driveway according to the guidelines set forth by the Public Works Director.
Correct.
So, this situation seems to be a little bit different in terms of the slope not giving access and being able to get to where his new building and entry wants to be. I guess what I don't understand is, and maybe this is a discussion for later or for another time, why this doesn't go hand in hand with a permit for construction, or when we're looking at it in a different place versus this being after the fact of the thought, because I just don't understand why it's not all grouped into one process, I guess. I think it's a little odd, personally. Like, again, this should be thought of when a building, when somebody's applying for a building permit to move something or to build something, access should be a part of that.
Agreed.
Personally, I mean, I do think this situation is a little bit different because obviously the can't extend the current driveway because of the slope issues to where he needs to be. So a second one seems to be more appropriate.
And necessary.
And necessary. I guess, why would you need one on the other side still? So if we're still going, again, we go back to the ordinance where we just want one driveway, why would you just not move the driveway and then just close down the other one? Maybe because it's already there or what have you, but again, if you're trying to go towards one driveway for convenience, if this one's the new entry, why keep the old one?
And nowhere does it really talk about removing.
It doesn't.
An original driveway in this, so there's work to be done.
Which would be expensive for a homeowner to do, and
Sure.
I get that, but I just feel like we're being very inconsistent and we don't have some principles laid out very well. So I would like that to change for the future
We're
somehow.
basically essentially creating another circle drive here, because there's nothing that says in a year from now, you can't connect those two driveways together. So
Except the slope doesn't.
Well,
we
I mean,
approved one.
did
Yeah.
you read that
So-
part? Actually, he's not able to hear me. Someone asked him about this part he wrote about. I intend to use.
I can't even hear you, Laura,
My
sorry.
intent is to have the ability to wrap around the back of my home to the existing driveway. That does sound like, does it not? I mean, that's a neat thing, connecting it so that it can come in and go out the other.
Which number?
That's what it said.
It's right before the plat book shot,
His letter says.
Oh, in the letter.
Yeah,
the letter, yeah.
additionally. my-
Okay, so, Paul, it says in your letter that your intent is to have the ability to wrap around the back of your home to the existing driveway. Is that correct?
Oh, that would be nice. My garage is actually on the east side. The current driveway services that. In response to why didn't I put this request in along with my building permit for the home, I guess I wasn't aware that they needed to go together.
Oh, and they didn't. They didn't, Paul. That was just a question as to why we don't have that happen in general.
Okay, again, I apologize, I'm not hearing real well, but with my addition, my intent has always been to have access on the west side. It's just that it hasn't moved along as fast as I wanted it to, but it will now.
So if your intention is to connect the two going behind your house, then the question now would be, could you just go behind the house to get to your entrance without having a second driveway?
Well, I mean, it would make the driveway like twice as long if I use the current driveway to get to my new entry.
So he's not planning on connecting them.
So are you planning on connecting the driveways or no?
I mean, it would be nice, but I mean, right now they're not. Well, right now there's only one driveway, and I do drive to the back of the house because, again, that's my entry point.
Yeah, I mean, we all would if that's.
You know, it would be nice to occasionally go around. My primary purpose is, though, to have, again, access to my new entry.
And I'd like to remind the council that I don't believe there is any rule against a circular driveway. It's just...
Yeah, there was only one driveway allowed, so you couldn't have a circular.
Gotcha.
Right.
So, in effect...
We're making a circular driveway.
Man.
So, I'm curious if he would enter, you know, how he feels about giving up the first driveway, since further in that same paragraph it says I intend to use the new driveway all year round and the existing driveway seasonally during the warmer months of the year. So it really is just temporary use, convenience. So could it be abandoned? I wouldn't think, if there's nothing requiring it to be removed.
No,
like,
there is not.
Right.
And the motion is just to approve the second driveway at this point.
Right, so that would be an amendment, abandoning the first, because you want your fire number just on one, right? When you have two driveways, do you have a fire number on both? I mean, how does that, I don't know what other issues that creates.
It's one property,
One property.
one fire number.
Let's say his garage is by his first driveway.
Can you say that a little louder, Tom?
I thought I heard him say that his garage is by this first driveway.
Yes, the garage is here and the entrance to the home is over here. So does the garage not connect to the home?
No, it is. It's an attached garage, and the garage faces the street with the existing driveway.
We're having a hard time understanding the necessity for the second driveway, I think.
So that I have access, convenient access to my new home entry.
Without going into the garage.
Yeah, right now I don't park in my garage. I want to be able to park on the west side. And though it may not be relevant, there are a number of circle driveways on Hillside Drive.
Okay.
So at this point, my comment is, I don't really, the necessity of it doesn't make any difference because the last one we approved wasn't necessary. I mean, it honestly was not necessary that they have that, and I don't see why we wouldn't approve this one for the same manner. I mean, we set a precedence 15 minutes ago.
Unless you were the one who didn't vote for one.
Well, right.
Time because there wasn't something.
Right, so I feel I have to vote no again, but it isn't because I want that to fail, because I would like it to be consistent. So I would like, if they can, I would like him to be able to, and for anyone in the future too, but on precedent, my 4 reasons I have jotted down for why I voted no are the same still. And the fact that there are neighbors that have it up there is just frustrating, and it's not fair, but it's not consistent. The way we're making the decision is based on the way it's written. And so then it would have to be giving up one driveway for the other, for it to be consistent.
Okay. Call the vote.
A quick procedural question. Does the mayor have the ability to veto an approval?
Yes.
I don't know what's worth it. I think we need to revisit our.
Or do you?
I think the point is really consistency, because any council can make another decision next year. So this is how things flow and have flowed. And so there you are. You either get it good on the books, or it just goes with the flow of each council.
Or we change the ordinance at some point.
That's
so
what I
that
mean.
Yeah, it just becomes part of the zoning code.
I think what we need to do, I'm sorry, I think what we need to do is understand why we only want one driveway.
Exactly,
That, I mean,
exactly.
that, and I have a feeling I know why. I think it's more culverts in the road, which the city is gonna have to maintain. Curb and gutter issues when things get redone or destroyed and have to be repaired.
Pedestrian safety.
Pedestrian safety.
But we're not alone as a community.
No, I think that most communities only have one driveway.
So.
The problem we run into here is that, we don't want to over-regulate things for our neighbors and make it hard on them and difficult, Like I said, I would love to be able to pull my boat in one direction and put it away and not have to deal with it, but
You better quit making a request while the council's still here.
But I think we honestly need to know why what we're doing with it. And if there's a reason for it, I think we shouldn't have to feel bad if we deny somebody. No matter how long we've known them, there's a reason for it, and it needs to be understood.
Right.
They need to understand why it's there. Not this, you denied me because you felt, the snails couldn't, cross the ditch anymore. I mean, right. I mean, there needs to be reasons.
Karen?
I was going to say that I think that we need to rethink or go through the process of saying, okay, what do we want to accomplish with driveways? Or what don't we want to have happen with driveways? And then look at redrafting in some of the provisions of this ordinance, because it's really written in a way that almost everything should be approved. It's pretty vague.
Or doing away with the ordinance and having driveways go through
Planning commission
along with.
I would not address that, because I don't think it isn't a zoning issue, but perhaps, as someone has suggested, maybe when a permit is issued, maybe there needs to be a plan for access, if that's an issue. I don't think it's a zoning.
Why is it a zoning issue? I mean, number of structures, how we build, what it looks like. I mean, all that stuff on a property is zoning. So
then why wasn't it put in the zoning code?
Why is the driveway ordinance a separate ordinance and not part of the zoning code?
That's why I'm asking. I feel like it fits very well in with zoning.
Because it fits into the streets and sidewalks section, which is not in.
I mean, that's fine. If that's what it is, that's what it is. And for me, I'm very literal. I read number 2, and to me, number 2 is the number of driveways to serve an individual fronting shall be 1, except where deemed necessary and feasible by the common council or committee, therefore for reasonable and adequate service to the property. Period. It's very simple to me. It's cut and dry.
Okay.
Except that I'm sorry, Dan.
Go ahead.
Except that reasonable and adequate, as I define it, and reasonable and adequate as someone else behind
Exactly.
it. Could be light years apart.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
thus we need to think about tightening it in some way that makes it easier to enforce it.
Okay, so
That's my
with the
Going
ordinance,
back to the reasons,
Right,
like what
right.
Dave's saying, like the reason why.
so with the ordinance that we do have currently on the books, and the motion and the second that is on the table, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, motion carries.
All right, perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Shooty.
Bet you didn't know that, see,
And thank you for attending, Mr. Hagen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next lively discussion. Discussion and action on decorative streetlight design for the Bayfield Street reconstruction. This is in tab 5, and there's a short memo here. Basically, just asking you to go through the process and pick your favorite. Now, having said that, it's not just your favorite, of course, but it's what you deem to be the best choice for the community. And so I don't know if any of you have had a chance to talk to constituents in your area and encourage them to either take the survey or to get their input that you can, represent. But I think the easiest way to go through this and maybe have some of that discussion along the way is by going through the decision matrix that we have here, and also taking into consideration the results of the survey, which I have to make sure to note was not a scientific survey. But it was a helpful tool to get some input from the public on the topic. Scott, do you have anything further to add before we dive in?
Not at this time. And if you have specific questions about, some of the lights and whatnot, I think in some of the survey information, there was some misunderstanding of the fixtures and the poles and the type of lights and so forth, but we can answer specific questions that you may have.
And just one other note, the committee that was working on coming up with the narrowed down choice of decorative lighting options did go through a lot of information in getting to that point. And so all of the lighting put forward meets dark sky guidelines, which is something that we have to do. We want to do it and we have to do it. And so, that's one of the things that we had to consider. We also want to really just take a step back and think about what we want the public who's driving through our city to see as they drive through our city, and representing Washburn for what it is. And one of the things that it is a deep water port that really sets us apart from almost every other community. And that is something that is very special to us, and that is one of the reasons why we thought it was important to bring in sort of a marina-themed option for the lighting. So just keeping these things in mind as we go through the decision matrix. So the first item was to select a fixture orientation, meaning either pendant style or post top style. The survey was overwhelmingly for the pendant style. as opposed to the post top style. And I'm guessing that is because everyone is concerned that that post top is probably the least dark sky compliant option. The post top is dark sky compliant because of the design of the lights. All of these lights have a disc light at the top that shines down. And so there's nothing illuminating from below upwards. There is just light shining down from the top of the fixture. However, with that fixture, it has a little bit more of a tendency probably to reflect that light outwards. In addition to the fact that that was the most expensive option because of the height of those poles and the need for more of them to get sufficient lighting along the roadway. Does anyone have any comments about this or?
That was probably one of the most asked questions on Facebook and to my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, no, they're all compliant. Then they says, well, how much more is the post top? I says, they have to be closer together, so there's more poles, there's more money.
Right. Yep.
Mayor?
Yes, Karen.
How do you want us to proceed with this matrix? Do you want us to by consensus?
I think we should do a consensus for each step of the way.
Yeah, that was my
Because I think there will be a little bit of discussion amongst each of those things, and then we'll have to discuss it again at the end after we've gone through each one.
Thank you.
So, is there a consensus on this, agreeing with the survey takers on a pendant style versus a post top style light?
Yes.
Yes.
I would.
Sure.
Okay.
Pendant.
All right.
We got one.
We got one.
Can we just take a chance and just
Are you
describe the detailed one we want and I'll say yes. Great.
Go
Are you
ahead.
asking if there's a consensus that we agree with the survey?
No, I'm asking if there's a consensus partially based on the survey results that you want to see a pendant style light.
Gotcha.
Taking it into consideration.
I disagree. Only because of the, I was set for a pendant style, but the businesses I've talked to downtown, who I don't think were taken into consideration here, you know, the post-top style poles create more of a walking atmosphere down on Main Street, which in the evening, which causes more commerce to take place. So my first choice is the post-top. That's just my opinion and the opinions of the businesses I've talked to. So we can move on.
Okay.
To get that out there.
Consensus -1. No, I think that's really a good point, and I'm glad that you brought that forward. And I think that did come up in the comments of the survey takers as well.
That's because it's like straight up and it just shines out versus the over the street?
Or because it's shorter.
Yeah, it's smaller, more Main Street, you know, kind of like people walking around, they're closer together.
Gotcha.
Kind of creates that hallmark Christmas holiday scenario of Christmas and
Defines your area.
well, yeah, I mean, I think it just creates a more enjoyable atmosphere for evening walks and that sort of.
Okay, thank you.
But I understand the expense that goes along with it, so.
Okay. I think we'll leave this one for now and move on to, if it were a pendant style, option 1, the marina style, or option 2, the glass works style, which is more the hooded. I was thinking about witch's hat when I see that. Comments on this?
I mean, the survey did show some glass works as a little bit of a preference. I think they're both popular. The people that I've talked to like them both. I've gotten a lot of folks that do like the marina option, just because it's different in our town with emphasis on the lake and the marina, people like that. So that's all I have to say on that. I like the marina style, but that's just my preference.
Laura?
Go
I was
ahead.
going to say that
Oh.
Scott went first.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to clarify, because I know the drawing can be a little deceiving here. It's not 100% accurate. So related to the marina style, and I think there was some confusion and misunderstanding of this as well. There is no glass globe within that fixture as what's shown here. So if that light is selected, it's just going to be the cage. Okay? The light is going to be at the top, and it's just a flat lens shining down. There is no globe. If there was a globe, that would disperse the light too much.
So it's like this drawing, so where we have the picture of the actual version that we're looking at here. Next to that, there is a drawing, and it seems like there's no globe in there, so it would be like that. And I'm sorry for those of you who can't see this on the camera. Where are we? Nope, not quite. So this right here. No globe. So the light is just shining down to an empty cage.
No bug traps.
No bug traps.
I was more interested in for saving some money, which some is a lot at this level, but still, in the scheme of things, I went around and as we looked at Bayfield and Ashland, and they have lights like the post tap ones and up and down Bayfield, and they have ones that are like the Glassworks. So even though I was leaning toward Glassworks before, considering our more production or ironworks and all of our history, it made sense, but I really like how this marina one would stand out. Very different look.
Yeah, it's different between, Ashland is more the Glassworks and Bayfield is more the post top, so separate us,
And maybe
style.
it'll remind people that we live by the lake when it's easy to forget when you don't see it.
That was the thought.
I personally like the Glassworks. It is the least expensive of the three, and the lesser number of poles that would have to be installed. I would like the marina style on the docks at the marina or on the coal dock, and I think that would look really cool there. But you want personal opinion?
Yeah.
My personal opinion is Glassworks.
And it was, I think, the more popular survey, and I don't think I have the survey right.
I have it right here.
Thank you.
That's right. You have it right there.
Oh, right here. Huh? I knew I brought it up here. Thank you.
58 to 41.
58 to 41, and it was very similar whether or not it was Washburn residents or not.
Almost identical.
So, any other comments on this?
No, I personally like the Glassworks. It's different than Bayfield. We're not Bayfield, we're Washburn.
Different than Bayfield, similar to Ashland.
For the sake of moving this forward, I move to approve option Glassworks 2D without the decorative scroll in the North Yorkshire base.
Ooh, you're jumping right ahead.
We have a motion.
What was, could you say?
A motion to approve option 2B without the scrolling with the Glassworks
I can,
fixture.
In
I
the
can,
North Yorkshire based.
I can second that because that's what I was getting feedback on.
Okay,
It didn't have to have the scrolling in there, they wanted the candy cane.
okay, so we do have a motion and a second. I am going to just quickly move us through the rest of the discussion. If anyone has any other thoughts on the fixture, speak now or
I'm in
until you
favor
vote.
of the marina
I
style.
can't hear you.
I'm in favor of the marina style.
I am too.
Okay.
Everything else I'd be fine with, but I like the marine with the cable. If we're just gonna go around and say that, we'll go with.
Anyone else want to voice any preferences or any thoughts? Share any thoughts?
Just the cost difference, the marina style is $70,000 more. The other one is $140,000 more. This is just the first decision we're gonna have to make as far as the entire Bayfield Street project. I am sure there's going to be other cost decisions that we have to make, and I think we need to take that cost into consideration.
Well, it would have been nice if we could have looked at specific options and prices beforehand before we totally agreed and were committed to doing it. Because I asked recently, can we back out of this? Because it is a ton of money, and I think that the lights we have aren't really that noticeable. They aren't ugly, they're really small and up there, and it'd be nice to find other ways to decorate. But as part of the planning process, the way I understand it, we've already moved past that, and so now it just seems like doing it well.
So I'm going to add to that and say one of the other most popular comments from the survey was about the Christmas lights being able to be lit up.
Yep.
And all of these options allow that. And I think that that's important to consider as we're weighing the costs and the benefits and the opinions and the likes and the dislikes and everything. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that the dark skies and the ability to have lit up Christmas decorations are two of the big across the board comments. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is the straight posts with the arms allow for a greater variety of choices with Christmas decorations because there's more room on the pole. The candy cane has a shorter pole and the arm comes up and curves. So it's something to just think about. If we're going to have Christmas decorations, we have banners. We probably would not have the flags out in the wintertime. We have banners though. And so we would be looking at either going above the banner on a pole that's the taller pole, or we would have to move the banners to the front of the pole every winter and then move them back in the off season so that then the flags could go on the front. So
I'm sorry, the way I had looked at these prints, the banner brackets are on the back side, the flag brackets on the front side.
Correct.
They're not removable.
they are removable. They are removable, and they're built to be actually fairly easily removable. The design, if you remember that pole sample that we had, it had ridges,
Yep.
and then there's clamps that just go right into that ridge.
Okay.
And so that is one of the benefits of that pole in particular, is that you can move those different things and take them off without having to be like banded on, you know.
Zip tied.
Zip tied.
That was not my original understanding.
Sure, yeah, so anything on here is removable. We can add whatever we want and take off whatever we want. It's just time, you know, it's an investment in time of going all the way down and doing that on every pole, you know, as you're switching out the banners seasonally or whatever. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Public Works Director? No, okay. So just another thing to consider is that you do lose some flexibility with the type and location of lit up Christmas decoration by which option you choose here. Okay, so we are on Are we still on the pendant style? Marina versus Glassworks. And we seem to be split on this.
Consensus.
Yeah, there's not a consensus on this. We seem to be split. Pendant style, then select one of the following 3 arm options. Okay, so it's not the candy cane. And I don't know if we even need to talk about this because the motion that's on the floor is for the candy cane. So maybe we just skip this for now and come back depending on what happens with the motion.
The motion's for the candy cane? I didn't.
No.
Yes.
No.
It is.
That's option 2B.
That's option
2B
2B.
without the scrolling.
Without the scrolling.
That was his option, his motion.
So that is this. It's the Glassworks fixture, this one right here,
Second page
in the packet.
in the packet.
So option 1 is the Marina. Option 2 is the 2A is the Glassworks. Option 2B is the Glassworks, but with a candy cane style,
Oh, but without the scrolling.
but without the scroll.
Without the
Yeah, I
scrolling.
thought the candy cane was just with scrolling. Didn't know it was a, okay, thank you. Thanks. Shoot.
Okay, so, and we're gonna skip number 4 for now too, because that's if it's a horizontal arm, and then the type of base was overwhelmingly the North Yorkshire seemed to win out in the survey, and that was what you are proposing in your motion. So, for better or worse, that's where we are. Does anyone have any other comments or discussion before we vote on the motion that is on the floor? Karen.
Mary, this is Mike Stuffle.
Mike, you're here.
How you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to maybe point out one thing on the arm style for the pendant. As you look at your survey results, even though the largest portion of the pie is for the candy cane arm, I would argue that the horizontal arms could be considered relatively the same style. And so if you look at, okay, do the respondents prefer a horizontal arm or a candy cane arm? And if they prefer a horizontal arm, which of the horizontal arms do they prefer? So I would argue that the candy cane arm, 46.6% of the respondents or 49.1% of the residents, but the larger majority supported a horizontal style arm versus a candy cane arm, if you add those other two together.
Agreed, understood. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that is a very good point, that it's either candy cane or horizontal. When you split the pie, it is more that prefer the horizontal when you add those two styles together. I believe is basically the interpretation there. Did you have a comment?
That was my point exactly.
Sure. So, good thing to keep in mind as we're thinking this through.
But otherwise, you did a very good job of explaining it. I didn't have to chime in at all.
Thank you. Karen.
Mike, I want to ask a question. Assuming a horizontal arm, can you just give me a brief description or the benefits of cable versus rigid or rigid versus cable?
I don't know that there's any benefit of one over the other. time have a tendency to come loose unless you do some sort of treatment to it to keep that from happening. The rigid style is probably more rigid in that regard. But otherwise, I think they're fairly similar.
It's just a style preference.
And sufficient tension on both to keep the arm, the horizontal arm in place, and, I mean, obviously, yeah, okay. All right. I just wondered if there was some...
Both designed to withstand the load at which they're subject to, as well as wind loading and salt loading or anything like that. It would be a corrosion-resistant material.
Thank you.
Are there other questions, comments, or discussion on this item? I'm letting you think because I'm not seeing anybody say yes or no. And it's a lot to take in.
Well, I'll just say that, I think...
Can't hear you.
I think the overall intent of a theme that we have running through town is important to take into consideration for, running next to the lake. I think, as being the deep water port, like you said, holds some water, and I think we should take that into consideration.
You bring up a good point. Is there a consensus yet? I mean, there is a survey that went out. Does anybody know what came of that, or if it's concluded about what is Washburn trying to brand us?
It's still in process, unfortunately.
So are we focusing on, because they're all tied to it's one or the other. Do we want to focus on the marina, or do we want to focus on the history of, plants and whatever?
It's unfortunate that the timing wasn't a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, there is a motion and a second on the table, so we'll see what happens, but, it's unfortunate that we don't have a better idea of, more about what that community branding process is coming up with input from all of those community members on the committee and the survey. I think it's important to think about the fact that, yes, this is a big commitment of dollars, and it's also a big commitment for time. This is how Washburn is going to look for
30 years, 40 years.
Decades, yes. So it's a big decision, and I understand.
Well, it's probably the fifth most asked question to me, between Facebook and in person.
It's just, what are we doing with the decorative lights?
Yeah, how long are they going to be here for?
Yeah, hopefully a long time.
That's what I said.
And that's, purposely why we chose those poles, those posts, made out of a different material. So they don't rust like we're seeing in other areas. Unless somebody has something, I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote.
Can we restate the motion, please?
Sure. I believe the motion is to approve the design 2B, but with a plain arm, without the decoration on the candy cane arm.
And a North Yorkshire base.
And a North Yorkshire base. Any other questions, comments? It feels like this isn't a good process.
Well, there's a lot of choices and it's, you know,
It's not, I mean,
Well-
it's not, the process in this is, we're putting the cart before the horse, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Right now, we have to make a decision based on what we think the business community and the residents want their town to feel like. And, but we don't know the results of these surveys on the other items, and, we're stuck with making this decision, so,
Is it critical that this decision be made tonight?
the design.
The design?
Right. What if we just had the base? I mean, we all agree how tall it needs to be.
Yes.
Mike? I think that's right.
What is the timing of the branding committee?
That is scheduled to be complete by the end of May.
I would say that timing of this decision, if you so choose, could be delayed a month or two. And, based on the conversation we had with the DOT today.
So do we just
So
need
if you did want to spend more time, if that works, if there's more input or if it's going to help the process,
I mean,
My
could
understanding,
dovetail it in with that committee.
Dave?
from a design standpoint, designing the system, if we know we're going with a pendant style, what gets slapped on that pole seems like that is a line item we can add or subtract.
Mike, how different are the two fixtures that are pendant style in terms of their light output and the effect that would have on the design?
The Glassworks is slightly better optometrically than the Marina. I think if we look at the cost estimate, there's on the two phases, I think there's only a pole or two difference. So they're roughly the same spacing, which means we're getting roughly the same light output.
or there's three less.
just for clarification.
Yeah.
My understanding last meeting was we had to make a decision at this meeting. So something has changed that.
So we had a meeting with the DOT this afternoon, and that was asked. They have given us a little more time, if necessary, to make the decision.
Okay. I thought we were facing a deadline to make a decision at this meeting, so.
And that's what we said last month.
I think that was our understanding going into this process, and then today it was clarified that there is more leeway in that for this specific item in the design process, if necessary. So,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
given that the branding committee tentatively has an end of May deadline to come out with their at least draft report, and we believe that that will give us some additional information about who we are, I would suggest we postpone decision until the June meeting.
so we do have a motion on the floor and a second. So we do need to vote on that motion.
If there is a motion to table, that will supersede that motion.
Oh,
I would move to table until June.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So the motion on the floor now is to table the discussion until June. And that was a motion by Karen, second by Mary McGrath.
There's no discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to table this until June. All right, everyone. I would recommend giving this more thought and talk to more people. Now that we have some additional information and clarification as well in terms of what some of these choices mean. As soon as that information is available, I will make sure that it gets shared out as far as the branding goes. And I think it would be helpful, I will make an effort as well to talk to more businesses on Main Street to make sure that they have all this information and can give their input. Karen?
Mayor, I would also suggest, and I know that the director of the chamber is on, that be again emphasized in their weekly blast to say, businesses, if you have input regarding the lights, see a council person or a staff person and specifically give us your input. I mean, they had an opportunity to do the survey, and some I'm sure did, but if there's additional information, then I would hope that the chamber would encourage that to come from businesses, in addition to what you're suggesting in terms of talking one-on-one with business owners.
Very good. Melissa, I'm not sure if that was shared out in the email blast at all, the survey. I thought I saw it.
I asked her to share that.
Yeah, okay.
And it was.
It was shared out it was shared out, yes.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
I'd be willing to do what Karen said as long as somebody gets me a copy for it.
Absolutely.
Should we be including the cost?
I need that by
Yes.
Wednesday.
There were questions on the cost in the survey.
Yes, so that information is all on the website, so if we somehow can condense it, or, I don't know, get people to just go to the link with the full information, that would be helpful. So anyway, I think we'll have to figure out how we want to continue to share this information, but in the meanwhile, it's tabled. So we'll move on to our next item. Discussion and action on Bayfield County resolution to form EMS study committee, tab 6. I think Bayfield County sees what's happening in Ashland County and wants to try to prevent that from happening in Bayfield County, and so they would like to form a study committee about emergency management, including the towns and the cities, to make sure, that everyone is communicating and can, I'm not sure what the exact goal of the committee is that stated in the resolution. It's a short-term committee. The mission is to determine the strengths and weaknesses of Bayfield County Emergency Services, propose recommendations to ensure continued and successful operations over the next 10 years, and establish an action plan to carry out those activities. That is the mission. And the final report to be submitted by May 31st.
Madam Mayor, I would move that Washburn approve this resolution and plan to participate in the committee to look at EMS services throughout the county of Bayfield.
I'll second.
Motion by Karen, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just a point of personal point, Madam Mayor. Milwaukee just recently lost 2 of their private ambulance services, and I said tongue-in-cheek that now that the big boys are having problems with EMS services, maybe our legislature will pay more attention to it. but,
And just to add to that, there is a state board that decides, what the local EMS has to do. And there is very little representation from smaller communities on that board because it is so challenging for small communities to just carry out their day-to-day functions, let alone serve on statewide boards. The next board meeting, I believe, is June 1st and 2nd, I think. And I plan on attending at least part of that board meeting to give some public comment and try to share a voice of a small community and start that process.
One of the issues is the budget for the local EMS has is affected by the 2% cap. And the county, that cap does not apply to the county, so the county can assess taxes to support EMS, not subject to the 2%.
So theoretically, if there were agreements through the county, it could be helpful.
Yes.
So I'm sure
that doesn't address all the issues, but it addresses some of the issues.
Sure. All right. Thanks, everyone. Next item, discussion and action on Resolution 21-004, requesting the Legislature increase funding for the Shared Revenue Program.
So moved.
I'll second that.
That was a motion by Mary, second by Tom. Is there any discussion on this item? I don't think we had it here, but there have been articles in the League of Municipalities magazine about the incredible decline of shared revenues coming to the community. So thank you. I will proceed with a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and action on special event request to temporarily restrict parking on South 2nd Avenue West and Harvard View Drive for the North Coast Car Show on July 24th, 2021. Tammy DeMars, petitioner.
So moved.
Second.
Was that Mary?
Yeah.
And a second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and action on special event request to temporarily close Central Avenue from Bayfield Street to the alley on Saturday, May 22nd for historic preservation celebration. Karen Novacek, petitioner.
So moved.
Second.
before you vote, know that there will be music and dancing in the streets.
That was a motion by Mary, and I heard a second by Laura just before Tom chimed in, so I'm going with Laura on that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Nice job on the historic preservation celebration this month. Discussion and action on Chamber of Commerce use of Thompson's West End Park, Memorial Park, Wickdall Park, and the Coal Dock. Closure of portions of North 3rd Avenue West and South 4th Avenue West, and relaxation of open container and noise ordinances at certain times during Brownstone Block Party activities, July 23rd through July 25th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. And our last item, discussion and action on notice of annual alcohol license renewals, tab 11. In your packet.
So moved.
Motion by Mary.
Second.
Second by Karen. To approve notice of the annual alcohol license renewals. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
So
it.
moved.
Oh, we got Tom and Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
My only hope is this survey will get on place to get